What's good, everyone? Welcome back to the show recap with Mo. Well, we're getting ready to get into another episode breakdown of Tyler Perry's Sistas. But before we get into this thing, make sure to like and subscribe to this channel so you don't miss shit snit that's going down, alright? So the episode we're getting ready to get into is Season 6, episode number 22, titled Beautiful Lies. Now, the synopsis for this episode states, after Andi, Fatima, and Penelope confront Gary, his true intentions are revealed. Danni deals with Preston's big news. Zac and Fatima try to work things out to get custody of Michael. Now that we got that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into some things, alright? So we kicked this episode off with Danni and Sabrina discussing Preston's recent marriage, alright? So in the previous episode, we saw where Danni had received a text message from Preston alluding to the fact that he had just recently got married, and we could all tell that Danni felt some type of way about the situation. She did have a relationship with this man. At one time, she quote unquote was engaged to this man, and then all of a sudden, a whole few days later, he's married. All right. So anyhow, Danni goes on to tell Sabrina that, hey man, this dude right here sent me a message along with the photos. So Sabrina's like, okay, what did he say? And she was like, well, the message states that you made your decisions and I've made mine. You are blocked from my phone and also from my life. And I'm like, okay, cool. I mean, what's the problem? Like, I don't really see the problem here. Outside of the fact that, this was a little tacky on his part. I get that part. On the flip side of it, I don't see a reason why Danni is why is she so upset about this situation? Like, there's no need to even get bothered with this situation because you were not invested in that relationship. And for her to feel this type of way when she could not convey that information to Preston, then I'm looking at her sideways because I'm like, sis, you shouldn't even be upset about the situation at all. But anyhow, we're going to move on from that because Sabrina's like, look, are you okay? How are you feeling? And she was like, look, I'm good. I'm telling you, I'm all right. Sabrina's like, no, you're not good. You're mad at Preston. And I don't want you to go out, get out with this dude later on tonight and do something that you potentially would regret. Now, I'm going to be honest with y'all. I'm actually with Sabrina on this because sometimes we can get so upset with, somebody that we had a relationship with and we're just not thinking straight. And the next thing you know, you're in a situation that you didn't really want to be in, but due to the hurt and everything that you were going through, the suffering or whatever you were going through, you decided that, hey, let me go ahead and do something to make me feel good. Ain't that what? Isn't that what Halle Berry said in that movie? What's that movie? Monsters Ball. When she, what's that scene?
I want you to make me feel
bad. Oh man, that movie is hilarious, man. But anyhow, moving on from there. Next we see Andi, Penelope, and Gary. Now, they're all standing in the waiting area at the law firm. Now, if you recall back in the previous episode, Gary was like, what y'all doing? Like, first of all, Negro, why are you up here? Secondly, why are you in our conversation? That's really what we want to know. So anyhow, Gary's like, okay, so where y'all going? And Andy's like, look, we're getting ready to go over to my office. It's like, good, well, let's go ahead and head over there. They was like, hold on, wait a minute. No, hold up. You ain't going to the office. We're going to the office. He was like, no. It's not going down like that. Like, I'm not allowing y'all to go over there and chit-chat about me and put this whole little situation together. And Andy's trying to hold it down. Penelope's trying to hold it together. And truth be told, neither one of these women right now can fight up against a fruit fly. All right, if we want to be honest. So in walks Fatima. Fatima, I hate that she has to be the big bad wolf when she doesn't need to, but in this point, she has to stand up against Gary for these two women to be able to get away from the situation. All right. So anyhow, Fatima approaches Gary like, y'all go ahead about y'all business. I'm gonna hold this down. Gary is staring at them as they're walking away, and then he slowly looks at Fatima, tells her to get the out of his way. Now, Fatima's like, who are you talking to? He was like, I'm talking to you. She was like, oh, no, no, you're not talking to me. So anyhow, he was like, oh, by the way, that little that you did with Hayden, like that shit right there, that was foul with the little hoe that you set him up with. I was like, damn, the hoe? I was like, out of all the words to say, my brother, that's the word you chose to use in this situation. But anyhow, Gary is like, look, all I need to do right now is go over here and talk to my attorney. And he starts to get loud when he sees hating ass Hayden coming up behind Fatima. So he was like, look, all I need to do right now is get over here to my attorney. Like, will you allow me to do that? Fatima's like, cool. His office is that direction, not over there. That direction. Hayden, man, look, I was really rooting for Hayden to have a happily ever after, right? Because even though the relationship, the marriage was set up, I was hoping that Tamara could actually fall in love with this dude and then we can get this scrub on out of the picture a little bit. But here we go again, right? So he and Fatima, they going back and forth about this. He was like, look, I'm about to get into you something terrible. Like, you just wait on it. Fatima's like, look, your time is almost up. Like, you might as well count your days right now. And I was like, damn, here we go with this again, right? So anyhow, going on from there, we head over to Andi's office where we see Penelope nervous as hell about Gary potentially coming into the office. She was like, look, you don't have to worry about that. Fatima's going to take care of that or whatnot. She was like, okay. So anyhow, Andi is, she's feeling some type of way about Penelope being there in the first place, but she can see that she's going through something, all right? So anyhow, Penelope wants to know straight off the bat, like, if Andi loved Gary at one point, and does she still love Gary at this point? So Andi states that she did love Gary at one point in time in their relationship, but at this point she does not love him the same. And if we were to be truthful with ourselves, we can see where Andi is coming from her vantage point, because at one time she did honestly believe that she would be Gary's wife and that she would have this family with Gary, due to the fact that at one point in time he was married. He got away from that situation, even though the way she got into this situation was foul. At the end of the day, she thought that this would be him. Well, unfortunately, it was not him. So going on from there, they go on to, add up the receipts, as they like to say. So Penelope pulls out her calendar and she was like, look, on these days I have crossed out right here, she knew something was off. Like, she heard conversations, she heard whispers of conversations, whoop, whoop, whoop. And she shows Andi the calendar. Andi's like, look, I'm looking at the calendar on these dates, without pulling out her own calendar. She's like, yeah, he was with me on these dates, but on this date, no. On this date, no. So anyhow, Penelope is like, look, we're not the only ones. Andi's like, what? She was like, no, we're not the only ones. So anyhow, Penelope is like, look, this ring right here is ours. So she points out this ring, and he's like, yeah. So Penelope pulls out her phone with the receipts showing another woman with the same exact ring. I was like, damn. I was like, come on, Gary. You gotta look. Man, oh my gosh. Like, I'm thinking, like, with all the wealth that this man has, he's just not thinking straight. Like, why buy all of these women the same exact ring? Like, this, like, you can be just overly OCD at this point, that you have to have everything like the way you want it, how you want it all. Like, this is ridiculous at this point. But oh, man, so anyhow, Andi's like, look, we're gonna go ahead and get this straight right now. Penelope is like, no, I'm not ready to face him. She was like, look, you don't have to worry about it. Like, I'm going to do all the talking, right? She calls Fatima. Fatima comes over. She was like, where we going? She was like, look, we're getting ready to set this straight, right? So Fatima's like, let's go. So Penelope is like, towards Fatima, like, do you even know enough about what's going down right now for you to even get involved? Fatima is like, look, I know enough to hold you down. So Penelope is like, enough said. So they go ahead and head over to the conference room where we see Gary and Hayden as Hayden, and they're conversing and whatnot. In walks the ladies. Now, they're walking in there to address the situation with Gary. They're like, look, y'all need to get up out of here. They was like, we ain't going no daggone where. All right. So they tell them, or they tell Gary specifically that, we discovered that he has been involved with other women, multiple women, not just one other woman. And he was like, look, I don't know what you're talking about. And it's like, yeah, you know exactly what we're talking about because you gave them the same damn ring. So anyhow, Hayden and Fatima, now they get into this little spat between one another. And I'm like, this is not the time for y'all differences. We're talking about Andi, Penelope, and Gary, and the other women in between. Like, we're not worried about what y'all got going on or what y'all had way back in the day. Right now, we focus on this situation right here. So anyhow, Andi goes on to tell him everything that they found out. And Gary's like, look, y'all need to leave. He's pleading with Penelope, almost in tears, talking about, look, I never loved her. She didn't mean anything to me. She doesn't mean to me. And then all of a sudden, Andi jumps in. She was like, look, let me go ahead and tell you something, Gary. She starts to mimic him. And as he's talking, she was like, look, it sounded something like this. Look at me, Andi. Look at me. And both Fatima and Penelope are standing there. Fatima's like, yeah, that sounds just like him, right? So anyhow, Andi goes in. She's getting her power at this moment to stand up against Gary and tell him everything that she really wants to get off of her chest. She got it now where she can stand here and stand 10 toes down and say it with her heart and her chest and say, look, you don't mean to me either. At one time I did love you. I don't care diddly squat about you right now. As a matter of fact, my brother, I used you until I was able to find my soulmate. So yes, I stood in this shit while you were sitting up here buying me the Rolls Royces and the penthouse and all the jewelry and the shoes and all of this. And I was like, damn, Gary, you did all of that? I mean, for a woman you say you didn't love? Like, damn, Gary, like, you really were getting your baby face on. Like, I give good love. I'll buy your clothes. I'll cook your dinner too, yeah. Soon as I get home from work, I'll pay your rent. Man, and my voice ain't even there, man, but you were in it. I mean, soon as I get home from work. He was getting it in because obviously from the calendar that, Penelope had, there was some days he wasn't showing up to her house. He was showing up at other people's house after work. Soon as I get home from work. Anyhow, man, let me move on. So Gary is like, look, Penelope, look at them. This is it for them. Like, they running from guy to guy. And I was like, hold on. We in here talking about you right now running from woman to woman, and you have the audacity to stand up here and call out that these women are doing, right? It makes no sense. It's asinine at this point because your point is pointless at this point because we're standing here talking about you. You got two women that you are involved with standing right in front of you. And as a matter of fact, my brother, one is pregnant right now, and that's the reason why you going so hard in on Penelope. You trying to get back with Penelope because she got the upper hand on you at this time. I'm going to end it on that. I'm going to digress right there. But anyhow, the ladies finally leave the room and it's like, look, we're going to be good. Penelope is like, look, I got this child. I just don't know what I'm going to do. And it's like, you'll figure it out. Why are we talking about figuring it out, right? And it's like, look, I wonder what those two idiots in that room are talking about. Fatima's like, look, they talking about you right now. And it's like, okay, how do you know that? She was like, oh, I left my phone in the room, so I got my earbuds. I said shit. Now, this is my thing. Gary admits to Hayden that he strongly likes Penelope. He likes her a lot. He likes Andi, but he likes Penelope more than he likes Andi. But when he was talking to Penelope, I love you. I don't love her.
But now all of a sudden you strongly like Penelope. I was like, shit. Now Hayden is like, hold on, you flip-flopping, brother. Like, Hayden is like even questioning Gary at this point, because he was like, now you just stated that you love this woman. He was like, yeah, man, I just said that. And his point is, he feels that Penelope is a weak individual and that she'll eventually come around back his way. Now, me personally, I don't think that's going to happen as soon as he thinks it's going to happen. It may never happen because of all the stuff that she's brought to the table. And if the stuff that she's bringing to the table is factual, then he got a whole different situation, because she does not seem like the woman that is just going to go back willingly, right? Now, she could be strategic, sort of like Andi was at a certain point in their relationship, where she's just going to be there to get what she can and get up out. That could be a situation as well. But anyhow, Gary and Hayden finally see that there's a cell phone in the room. So they were like, oh shit, like, damn, she's listening. So anyhow, Fatima hurries back to the conference room, picks up her phone, says, oh, I forgot my cell phone. They were like, oh, you just so happened to leave your cell phone, right? And she walks out with no explanation. So Gary and Hayden are like, look, we got to get them back. Hayden is like, yeah, we definitely got to get Fatima, but he also throws Zac into the picture. So he's back on Zac once again, when Zac has absolutely nothing to do with Hayden. Now, Gary's like, yeah, we can get Fatima back, but I'm not too certain about Zac. Now, I'm questioning what his reasoning is by that. Does he fear Zac to a certain extent, or does he know that's an uphill battle that he's not willing to go into at this point? But I am intrigued to find out what that potentially could be, right? So anyhow, going back outside of the conference room, we see Andi, where she's having this discussion with Fatima about her not seeing, you know, all of this going down within their relationship. Like how she was so blind to the fact that this man potentially could have been doing the same thing that he was doing to her wife. And that brings us back to the conference room where, you know, Andi brings up his wife. Of course, Penelope knows nothing about him being married. Well, he was like, well, I told you I was in a situation. Well, the situation, sir, is not a marriage. Like, tell her what it is. So anyhow, Andi is like, now I see why your wife was acting the way or responding the way she was responding, because you made her ass crazy. Now, to a certain extent, I get where she was coming from or what she was trying to say. But I'm also a firm believer that, you know, a monk can only do to you what you allow them to do to you. So if you give them the power over you, then they will have the power over you. But if you go into a relationship and you dictate what you will accept and what you will not accept, then there's no question about what they're going to take and what they're not going to take. Like I already know from the get-go, if you mess around with somebody else, I'm out the door. And it's easy peasy for me, because that was the initial setup from the very beginning when we sat down and we had this conversation about our marriage, our relationship. It was already set up from the get-go. So there's no question about what's about to go down the pipeline when you do what I said not to do. All right. So anyhow, moving on from there, man. Next we see Brian and Karen. Now, they're still over there at the potential spot for her new hair salon, since her previous hair salon burned down. So as she's coming into the building, you know, Brian is like, is it all set up? Did you talk to your real estate agent? She was like, yeah, actually, Chelsea is on her way over here. He was like, oh, yeah, I know them. You know what I'm saying? So as they're talking, Chelsea comes in. Chelsea looking good, by the way. So Chelsea comes in. Let me get focused. So Chelsea comes in and, you know, she introduces herself to Karen. And, you know, of course, she and Brian have rapport with one another. So, you know, he quotes a price of $175 per square foot. Chelsea's like, I don't know, that's a little high. But anyhow, long story short, she says, look, can I go ahead and talk it over with, you know, my client or whatnot? So he was like, okay, well, y'all talk about it. I'm going to head outside. So anyhow, long story short, Chelsea is like, look, that's a good man out there. He obviously likes you for quoting the price that he's quoting you right now. It is a good price, but we still going to talk him down a little bit to see what we can do. But he's definitely giving you bang for your buck. But here's her question, though. This man, Brian, good man, good husband, good worker, never cheated on his wife, take care of his kids and all of this stuff. Woo, woo, woo. But she wants to know, because she overheard in the conversation that Karen came over with him. She didn't drive her own damn car. Why is he bringing you over here? And as a matter of fact, she got some girlfriends who are fly as hell, who have tried to hit on him. He didn't bite, but all of a sudden he got you in his truck when ain't nobody else been in his truck but his wife. Obviously he likes you, or there's something. And I'm like, yeah, there's something going on here. I've been saying it from the very beginning. Like, we have yet to hear from his wife. We ain't seen no phone calls with his wife. We ain't seen her nowhere pop up nowhere, bring him no lunch, none of that. So, of course, we all like, all right, bro, where's your wife? You a good dude. Whoop, whoop, whoop. But where's your wife? Like, we ain't seen her. All right, we've seen Fatima pop up for lunch. We've seen shit. We've seen Aaron pop up. We've seen shit. We've even seen Hella pop up. We've seen her pop up and she ain't got nothing going for her but the rent. And we'll talk about her a little bit later. But yeah, getting back to this conversation, Chelsea is nosy as hell. Like, she reminds me a lot of the nosy ass neighbor over there at Heather's crib. Like, she want to get into all the business. Like, she want to know how she got hooked up with Brian, and then she want to know why she in the truck with him. Lastly, she want to know, how do you know Zac? And she was like, look, well, he happens to be the father of my child, supposedly, right? So Chelsea is like, really? She was like, well, let me go ahead and clear the air real quick. This wasn't going down while he was, dealing with Fatima. And I was like, what? So Chelsea was like, well, I was just trying to make sure because, I've heard a lot of stuff. And I was like, damn, like, these streets are small, man, for real. But anyhow, moving on from there, we head back over to Zac and Fatima's crib, where we see Zac sitting at the kitchen table. And long story short, he wants to pay Heather a certain amount of money for Michael. Now, I think he needs to hold up a little bit because we need to find out a little more details about Michael as well as for him, because I don't trust Hayden. Hayden was the one that went through that whole little process, and I'm not trusting him right now because he's willing to do anything to win. All right, so I'm still questioning that. Secondly, Fatima's like, look, this girl is a hood rat. I'm like, right? Right? No question there. And she's like, look, she's going to ask for $1 million. Like, she's going to ask for $1 million, bro. Zac is like, come on, man. Like, she ain't going to ask for that amount of money. Fatima's like, okay. So he already got the papers ready to go. He's like, leave. Let's go ahead and leave right now. And he was like, as a matter of fact, can you go ahead and leave your purse? Fatima's like, no, I'm not leaving no purse here. Like, I'm taking it with me. So anyhow, next we head over to Maurice's crib, where we see Sabrina is still at his damn crib. And I'm like, dang, like, you've been there for hours upon hours. Like, take your ass home. Anyhow, she was like, look, on the phone with Danni and telling her, like, when we're going to go out on this double date, even though Danni has already conveyed to her, like, we're not doing that. Like, I'm going out with this man alone. Sabrina is worried that she's going to do something that she's going to regret later. Woo, woo, woo. Long story short, they get off the phone, same decision that it was previously. Maurice is back in the back room, and she's like, look, Maurice, like, I've been waiting on you all day. And he finally comes out with this leather outfit on, talking about, look, I'm working on my new business venture, and he got his little leather outfit on. I guess he's doing videos or whatnot back in the room. She was like, what are you doing? He was like, look, I'm trying to make money on the side. I got to make some money some type of way. Sabrina's like, no, Maurice, I've already told you that we're going to go out here and get you a new job. So hopefully it's not in banking because, word travels fast. And once they put that on your record about stuff, like, I mean, it hinders you from getting other jobs and roles as well. So hopefully he can find a job shortly and not do what he's trying to do on the computer screen. All right. So going on from there, we head back over to the airport where we see Tony and Danni. Now they get into this little conversation. Tony's like, look, do you want me to walk you out or whatnot? Danni's like, look, no, I'm good. Like, I'm gonna just head home. I'm gonna get, washed up or whatnot, get changed so I can be ready for this date tonight. Tony's like, well, that sounds good. I'm definitely going to go home and put on my good suit, get washed up a little bit, and head over there to pick you up. Like, I'm gonna take you somewhere good tonight. And Danni's like, good. Like, yeah, we can go somewhere real nice tonight. And it was like, yeah, maybe we can have some drinks later. And she was like, yeah, if you play your cards right, maybe we can make the after about us as well. And he was like, oh, for real? And she was like, yeah, definitely. And that's what Sabrina was worried about, because at this point, Danni is once again trying to make herself feel better about what has transpired between she and Preston and everything that's going on. And she wants to feel desired and wanted. But Preston wanted you. He desired you, and you didn't want him. But now you're making the mistake of potentially, giving your goods to this guy that you barely even know. And you might end up in a situation once again that you were in previously. So not to say Tony is that type of dude, but damn, we don't know much about him. I mean, we really don't. But what we do know about him is that he seems cool. He works at the airport. We know those things about him because of what we've seen. Now, let me go ahead and jump to the end of the episode very quickly, and then I'll get back on the other things later. The reason why I'm saying that, we don't know much about him because now all of a sudden we get to this end scene where we see Danni walking out by herself to her car. Now, her car obviously has been vandalized. Somebody has broken glass. She has what it looks like eggs have been thrown over the car. Like, who in the hell has done this to her vehicle? Now, I'm not assuming that it's Preston. I don't honestly believe that Preston cares at this point. He's moved on with the woman that he's married, whether that's Mindy or whomever it is. On the flip side of it, is this someone that is in relationship with Tony? You see what I'm saying? So we really don't know who he is, and then all of a sudden we see old boy coming up from behind and taking her down. So we don't know what's going on with that. Who set this up to begin with, right? So, and on another note, just to put this out here, I tell people all the time, hey, when you go out to your parked car in a garage or wherever you are, make sure that you're off enough to be able to see if somebody's hiding behind your vehicle, look up under your car. For her to be in her phone and not paying attention to her surroundings, that's one thing. But to be in your phone and didn't even look to see if there was something going on around your vehicle, because you didn't notice anything until you got right up on your vehicle that the glass was broken. But you could have seen some of that from afar off if you were paying attention. Like, something don't look right. The windows are down. I didn't leave the windows down. Woo. Anyhow, moving on from there, we head over to Heather's crib. Now, we knew there was going to be some shit. All right. So we head over to Heather's crib. We see her yelling at Michael, who's obviously in another room. She's telling him to sit down somewhere, be quiet. Woo, woo, woo. There's a knock on the door. So she comes to the door. Who in the hell is it? It's me, Zac. What do you want? Well, I just want to come in. I want to talk to you. She was like, look, we ain't got nothing to talk about. Woo, woo, woo. He says, look, I got some money. She was like, oh, really? Look at her face. That's all she wants, my boy. Like, 5 minutes of pleasure. 5 minutes of pleasure. I mean, 5 minutes of pleasure gonna cost you a grip, my boy. Zac is like, look, man, I'm willing to give you $25,000, for Michael, for me to have, custody over Michael. She was like, so you gonna pay money for my son? He was like, no, for our son. And she was like, no, I'm not taking 25. He was like, well, immediately after the decline, he offers 50,000. I was like, dumb. Like, why the hell you gonna offer this woman who just declined 25,000, 50,000 immediately after she rejects you? You supposed to be a hustler. You supposed to understand how the hustling game goes, my boy. And I was just thinking about the conversation that he and Fatima were having back at the crib when she was like, look, she's a hood rat. Like, she gonna easily want more than what you offering to her. Like, you give her 25. But if she rejects that, then you need to go back to the drawing board. Just don't immediately, give her something else. And as he was going up on the price, Fatima was standing there shaking her damn head like, Negro, please. Please shut up. Please shut up. Like, this is not it. Alright? So anyhow, Heather, utters the words out of her mouth that, Fatima had already told him she was going to ask for. She was like, I want $1 million. And he was like, $1 million? She was like, yeah. So while she's going back and forth with Zac, Fatima walks around Heather, and Heather's like, where you going? She was like, Zac. So she calls Zac over there to the room. We see Michael in the bathroom, tied up, sitting over there in the bathtub or some shit. And I was like, what the hell is going on? Now, what they should have done was took pictures, called the police, had evidence. So when they actually showed up, this is how we found Michael. This is not a suitable place for him to be. All right? But instead of doing that, Fatima pushed Heather down. Heather over here screaming like, don't take my child. Y'all kidnapping my child or whatnot. And they take him out, put him in the car. And my whole thing was, y'all messed it up. The nosy ass neighbor up there, good. Somebody finally coming to take the child away. Whoop, whoop, whoop. But she's not understanding as well as them. Like, Fatima should know better. At this point, like, we got to go the legal route. The attorney that was working along with this case back at her law firm was like, look, we don't have enough evidence. So the judge threw it out. But if you can get some evidence, that's what you need to overturn this, Zac. The way that you're responding right now, I see the reason why you make the dumbass decisions you make. And I'm sorry to say it like that, but damn, man. But anyhow, that's pretty much the end of the episode. I'm sorry, man. I got a little pissed off right there, man. But anyhow, that's the end of the episode. I hope that you guys have enjoyed this recap. I'm glad to be back. I had to take a little vacay with the family, man, just to get away, spend time with my kids and my wife, and I'm back at it. So with that being said, man, let me get up out of here. I'll talk to you guys soon. Peace.